Well, the stage is set. Texas A&M is officially the 7th seed in the college football playoff, and they'll take on the Miami Hurricanes in Kyle Field December 20th at 11 a.m. So first things first, guys, I want to hear from you. Did the committee get it right? Because I know there's this discussion about whether A&M deserved the 6th seed or the 5th seed, or who the opponent might be. Maybe A&M could play one of those JMUs or Tulanes that made their way to the college football playoff, and we'll talk about that and just the concept of that happening. I want to hear from you. Let me know. My thought is, I'm happy to be here, man. It was just a couple of seasons ago. Texas A&M was a 5-7 football team that lost to App State. And yes, congrats. I brought up the App State loss. Take a shot. But I think perspective's in order here. You were 7-5 the next year. You fired the coach. Giant billion-dollar buyout. You dealt with, a year one coaching staff last year. 8-4, transition year. Year two of the Elko era. You're 11-1. You're hosting in the college football playoff. You're in the dance. You have a chance to win in advance, a chance to win at the highest level against the best teams in the country. So I think this is a really, really big moment for A&M. And when the 7th seed A&M came up on the screen on Selection Sunday, my overwhelming feeling was just happiness, man. This team made it. This team deserves it. This team is talented. This team can be extremely dangerous if they play their brand of football, can play 4 quarters of football through this college football playoff. And I'm excited to play the Hurricanes, man. That's a really tough matchup. And we were wondering who it might be, right? We figured it was Miami, could have been Notre Dame, could have been Alabama. And with the way the Georgia-Bama game went on Championship Saturday, I thought Bama was set to maybe drop a spot. I didn't think they'd drop out. I think that'd be a terrible precedent to set. And the precedent was really already set the year before when SMU lost to Clemson in the ACC Championship and still made the dance, and I think that was kind of there, kind of in the thought process. But in the SEC Championship, a team couldn't drop out. I thought we'd be hosting Bama, though. I thought Bama was coming to Kyle Field. But Bama stays put. They select Bama. You see Bama flash on the screen. They're number 9. And you're thinking, is this going to be Notre Dame? Is this going to be Miami? And I'm kind of wondering, where does BYU fit? Because if BYU dropped a spot or two in the Big 12 Championship, losing to the same opponent twice, that's the buffer between Miami and Notre Dame. And we heard the entire, time we were getting these Tuesday selection shows that Miami and Notre Dame, even though Miami had the head-to-head over them, they were not being compared one-to-one because there was a buffer of teams in between them. Well, that buffer was gone. And Miami takes the 10th spot. And you get to run back that home and home you had in 22 and 23. The good news is the home team won both of those games. It's an entirely different situation with mostly new players, new coaching staff on A&M's side. And A&M has a hell of a path ahead, guys, because outside of that one, if you find a way, if you're fortunate enough, you're good enough to beat Miami at home, you get to play Ohio State. But that one's in Jerry World, in Arlington, the DFW era, in Texas on New Year's Eve. What a prize if you're able to go and take care of a home opponent in round 1 of the playoff. But the bracket doesn't stop there. You win that one. You're playing Georgia, maybe Ole Miss, probably not Tulane. And then you're in the Natty. So what a hell of a path to the championship for A&M ahead of them. But the bottom line is they're here. They have a chance. We get to keep talking about meaningful football on this channel, on X, at the water cooler, wherever you talk about A&M sports. And that is just such an exciting and fun thing to be a part of for this program. And I think A&M in Miami are similar in that kind of regard that they've both kind of come up short, right? Like, it feels like A&M and Miami over the last 20 years or so have had these teams or opportunities, at least you would think going into seasons, to play at this level when it comes postseason time, only to come up short. They had the talent, the coaching you would think at the time, the money, the infrastructure was all there. And these are a couple teams that would just come up short. But now they get to play each other. And one of these teams will move on, which I think is great for the sport. I think it's great for our program. This will be a really, really fun, exciting matchup to watch. You play Bama. That would have been fun too, but it's an in-conference game. You play Notre Dame. You already played that one this year. This is definitely the fun matchup, right? You play Miami. But you don't get to go and play a cupcake, right? Relative cupcake, playoff cupcake. JMU's in the playoff. Tulane's in the playoff. And that was the prize to be 5 or 6. And we can have a whole discussion about whether A&M should have been in that spot. But first of all, I want to talk about just the fact that these teams are in, man. I mean, there are a couple issues, I think, with college football. One or two, right? But, a lot of talk about the committee, how, they're not making the best decisions. We don't trust their judgment. I think there's a lot of subjectivity that goes into this. That's there. But there are layers upon layers, I think, of issues. One of which is I think the G5 should be either in their own league or have their own playoff. I think we have too many teams vying for the same prize. Does anybody think JMU or Tulane are going to win a game, let alone have a chance to win the whole damn thing? I mean, this is really good for those programs. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for those players and those fan bases and those coaches. It's going to be really good financially for them. But, you know, a team like Notre Dame to get left out after being one of the best eye test teams in the country for the last 10 weeks, a team like BYU to make their conference championship and be left out, even Texas, who, you know, they had their argument, Vandy had an argument, to see these teams not even get a chance by way of these guaranteed protected spots, it doesn't sit right, man. It really, really doesn't. You know, it's a shame that Ole Miss, you know, they get the 3:30 slot with Tulane. JMU Oregon's the night slot. A&M gets the morning slot in that Saturday on December 20th. And that's mostly because ABC and ESPN, from what I understand, get first selection on that day. They pick the matchup and the time slot. And there is NFL going on later in that day, and that is the only time slot on the day where there is no competition with the NFL. So from a programming perspective, a TV network perspective, it makes sense there. But, man, it feels like a buzzkill to have to watch those as your primetime playoff games, right? So in the future, man, I think, first of all, what I just said, maybe make something else for these G5 schools. And, hey, if there's a year where a G5 school goes undefeated, beats Notre Dame, OU, and Arkansas on a year, wins 2 ranked G5 matchups, then wins their championship, and they find themselves in the top 12 naturally, sure, give them an at-large spot. But I don't think we should be paving the way for them. I do really like the fact that I think the college football regular season that has been one of the best regular seasons in all of sports, the most impactful regular seasons of all sports, I don't think it's been diminished with this college football playoff, and I think this year is the perfect example. You could argue that A&M has already played playoff games this year. You could argue that A&M earned their playoff spot with that game-winning touchdown against Notre Dame. Or maybe it was the Mario Craver 90-yard touchdown that got you back into the game. Because you don't win that game, you're not here. Notre Dame's here. You know, you could argue that A&M won a playoff game by coming back from 27 down against South Carolina. That was a game where if you don't find it within you to keep chipping away and come back in a game, if Marcel Reed doesn't scramble for that first down, if you don't get that 4th and 2 stop, if you don't score those unanswered points, you're not in the playoff. It goes for our opponent as well. They earned their right to the playoff in week 1 on a Sunday against Notre Dame. So I think it's really positive that with this 12-team playoff, with this expanded playoff, the regular season is still carrying a massive amount of weight. These top teams are getting the benefit of the bye. I think it's a really healthy spot to be. I think the structure needs some hammering out. And having said that about the sanctity of the regular season still largely seeming intact, I think there's an argument to expand it to 16. I think it makes sense to get these teams in, to get like a Vandy in this year deserved it. I think maybe Texas had an argument. Obviously, we just talked about all these bubble teams, certainly BYU and Notre Dame. And I don't think it's going to hurt the regular season that I think is still very, very impactful week to week. You just have a little bit more wiggle room, but not much, man. Not much. If A&M lost one more game this year, I don't know, man. It was tight. So you could argue all those moments were critical for A&M, and now they will be tasked with righting the ship because the last game A&M played this year, it wasn't so good. Let's talk about Miami and what they're going to bring. Haven't done my deep dive into them. Haven't done a ton of tape work. But what you know about Miami is that they are a team built in the trenches. This is a team with maybe the best offensive line, defensive line combination in all of college football. And throughout most of the year, this has been a strength for A&M. But in the most recent game versus Texas, that was an area you came up short. We don't feel like the offensive line played up to their standard. We certainly don't feel like the defensive line played up to their standard in that game. Making some bad decisions in gap fits, getting pushed around, allowing yourselves to get blocked a little bit too much, and at the back 7 level, getting out of position a little bit, not helping the rest of this team out. Those things have to be righted against a team that is going to bring it on both sides of the trenches in a football game in Kyle Field. But A&M will have 3 weeks to get right. They'll also be going up against a veteran quarterback that I think is a pretty decent matchup for A&M. You know, obviously he's the kind of guy that can throw receivers open, can make his receivers better. Not a mobile quarterback, not a quarterback you have to worry about those 15-yard scrambles for a first down on a 3rd and long, or those 6-yard scrambles for a first down on a 3rd and medium. Arch Manning, you don't have to worry about that as much with this team. Of course, any quarterback can run for a first down, but that is not a strength of Carson Beck. I think that's a positive for A&M. But you also might be going up against the best receiver you've seen all year in Tony. That's one of the best young receivers in all the country. I think when you're looking at the best receivers coming back next year, it's going to be Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, and he's going to be right there in that mix. Mario Craver might be in that mix. Very, very talented player. I think the best receiver A&M will have faced this year. But you get to do it at home. And even though it's at 11 a.m., I have no doubt that you and I will bring the energy for that game. So here's the challenge, guys. First of all, get your butt to Kyle Field early. I think one of the reasons those home morning games are such a benefit to the opponent, first of all, you're not liquored up. Let's just be real. Do what you have to do. Second of all, the crowd is sometimes late arriving or like just scrambling to their seat as kickoff happens. I would urge you to get there early so you can be there and be ready when this game kicks off. They're going to need it. This is the last time you're going to see these seniors too. You get a bonus senior day. You get to see, hopefully, Le'Veon Moss one more time in Kyle Field. And you're going to need Le'Veon in this matchup that's a very tough, trench warfare kind of game. Le'Veon was on the injury report versus Texas. Obviously didn't go, but he made the report as doubtful. We saw, clips of Le'Veon practicing the last couple of weeks. I think it's time, guys. I think there's a really good chance Le'Veon is able to play one more time in Kyle Field. They'll need Le'Veon, and they'll need the 12th man. So get ready, get loud, let's be crazy. But yeah, guys, I just wanted to give you my initial reactions, and of course, overall, we're just happy, man. We're happy we're in the dance. We're happy we have a chance. We're happy we're playing an opponent that's not a usual opponent that's kind of fun. I want to hear from you guys. Make sure you like, make sure you sub. Thank you guys so much for being here. We'll be here breaking down this game over the next couple of weeks. A lot of things to look at, a lot of things to talk about, and of course, a hell of a path ahead. Hopefully you earn the right to play in Jerry World the next week against the Ohio State Buckeyes. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Gig 'em.